Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I'm so glad that you're here. I do happen to be standing on a yoga mat, but if you don't have one, don't let that stop you from joining us. Just find a place in your house that's not too slippery. Maybe it's carpeted, so it's a little softer also. A couple of other things. I like to use blocks. If you don't have blocks, thick books are a great substitute. A folded towel could be your hand towel, your kitchen towel, just in case we want to pad our knees at some point. A bolster of some sort, so just pull a cushion off your couch. And then a chair is nice to have nearby for balance. Of course, you might be able to use your wall sometimes too, but I incorporate this often into our flow as an option, so it's nice to have. Once you feel that you've got yourself settled, you can also decide to wear your shoes or be barefoot like I am, and just angle yourself so that you can best see me. I'm going to move around so that you can see me, but let me do the moving. And let's start standing in our foundational pose of mountain pose, Tadasana. Feet hip distance, palms turn away from each other. We almost always start, at least with me, in this pose because it is the bedrock of all poses. It's also the pose that we use the most in our lives. And today, we're going to use it as a way to find really beautiful, conscientious posture all the time, not just on our mat, but off. Feel all 4 points of your feet on the ground. So that's big toe knuckle, pinky toe knuckle, and 2 points at your heels. You're rooted into the earth so that we can grow tall to the sky. Allow a soft bend in your knees, so we don't want to be locked out in our legs. That's going to send us into things like throwing our butt back and dumping into our lower back, or locking into our legs and tucking our pelvis. So find that happy medium where there's the natural curve. It's actually an earned curve in our low back. We didn't have it until we stood up and started walking. So it's like a bit of a shock absorber. We don't want to overuse the shock absorber. And from all of our hours seated, sometimes we get that tuck in the tailbone that we also want to avoid. So happy medium right there in the middle. And then you can think, and I'll stay sideways to show you, shoulders over hips over heels. So this is another thing we want to avoid. And in addition to that, we have a tendency to jut our chin out as we text or operate on our computers. So let's counteract that. Soft bend in our knees. Think shoulders over hips, over heels. And then let your head lean back. And that's different from lift your chin. Although in our bodies, sometimes it feels like the same thing. So we're just going to do the best that we can to keep our chin parallel to the ground and just lean our head back. So some people say, imagine trying to make a double chin. Maybe that helps. I know it's not exactly what you want, but it is a very great description of the action that we're trying to find. And then let's find a moment of silence and breath here in the structure of ears over shoulders, over hips, over heels. If you gaze at the horizon, that will help with the chin parallel to the ground. I like to describe that as us being able to see our bright horizon. What if you walked that off your mat and into your day? Adding some movement. Inhale, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and then just float your arms back along your side and see if there was already some of that habitual compensation. Not because we're bad people, we've just been practicing that stuff for a while. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, and then float your arms down. It's a very simple movement, but kind of not so simple when you're really paying attention to posture. One more time, inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Float your arms alongside your body. And then half sun salutations. Inhale, thumbs to the sky, our V shape. hinge at your hips and take your hands onto your thighs. Now when we traction, we talk about this a lot, but can you find that feeling of your heart through the gateway of your arms, the counter pose to slumping at our computer? And then exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and then float your arms along your side, palms face out, super aware of ears over shoulders, over hips, over heels. Again, inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale, traction, let the collarbones smile. If you cracked a smile, it wouldn't bother me a bit. Exhale, hinge at your hips, and then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Float your arms along your sides. One more time like that. Inhale, arms out and up. Remember the soft bend in your knees even here. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale, grow the longest that you have in your spine yet today. And then exhale, hinge at your hips. We always keep our head higher than our hips though. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Float your arms along your sides. Mindfully, we will arrange our props for our next adventure. Nice to have your chair and turn the seat of your chair towards the short edge of your mat. That can be really helpful for a number of the things that we do. The other props that you might enjoy are your blocks, and I just ask you to take them off the sides of your mat, not right underneath your feet. You'll move them in a little closer when we're using them, but we do want to be aware that we're not putting things under our feet to trip. So feet hip distance, and here we are. Can we find that glorious, beautiful posture? And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale, extend your heart forward. Place your hands onto the seat of your chair or incorporate taking your blocks onto your mat a little closer, and then step your left foot back. And we are in a lunge for the time being, but we're going to change that up. So once we get the structure, and I just mean from the ground up, plenty of sideways space, so sometimes I step my right foot to the right. Come upright, thumbs to the sky, and then straighten your front leg and press that right big toe mound into your mat. Now our thumbs are to the sky. We're in kind of like a more wobbly stance than when we found our mountain at the beginning of the practice. Turn your palms away from each other and float your arms alongside you. Imagine that you are pretending to be in mountain pose again. Can you find ears over shoulders, over hips? And I know it's not exactly over heels now, but that same mountain structure with a little bit more of a wobbly situation, because that's what happens when we walk this posture out into our lives. Things get a little wobbly, and then we just fall back into our habits. Let's let it be kind of juicy to sink our teeth into learning a new way to stand into things. Maybe it helps us learn a new way to understand things. Now, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Bend your front knee and take your hands either to your blocks or to the seat of your chair, and step your left foot hip distance from your right. Inhale, hands to your thighs. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, and then stand here in our mountain, but knowing that we're going to take side two of that more wobbly mountain attempt. So feeling into this mountain now where it's familiar, where we might be able to take note. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward, hands to the seat of your chair or hands onto your blocks, and now it's your right foot that will step back. So it's like we're heading back, right? Heading back to the structure, but also we stepped back. So there's all kinds of really great metaphors that we can thread through our practice. Step your left foot over to the left. Really feel this foundation, the structure. Come upright, thumbs to the sky. Keep your arms out to the side. Just slowly straighten your front leg and press into that left big toe mound. Reason being, it's going to engage the muscles that we want to use here. Now, imagine that you're standing in your mountain. Turn your palms away from each other as you lower your arms. Can you gaze at your bright horizon? Notice the ways in which you might compensate here. Maybe you're jutting your chin forward, not because any of us are bad. It's just learned behavior, and we don't know until we know. It's one of the glorious things about yoga poses is that how we do one thing is how we do everything. We learn it here on our mat, trot it out into our lives. 3 moments where there might be a little wobble, but as we've covered, that happens in life too. Rebend your front knee, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, and then place them consciously on your blocks or on the chair seat. Right foot, hip distance from left foot, hands onto your thighs. Inhale and exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape, and then stand into your mountain. Soften a little bit in the knees. Soften your gaze. Soften your jaw. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward and take your hands to the seat of your chair or onto your block. Step your left foot back. Maybe that sideways space was really helpful. Hug your right hip back and your left hip forward. So we were hinting at that when we stood upright with our straight legs. We'll hang out in a moment in an upright lunge. So firm your belly, come upright, thumbs to the sky. One thing that might be tricky in our lunge here is it's tempting to either pitch forward or dump into our low back. We talked about that in our mountain pose. So to negate that, let's bend our back knee a little bit. You can feel it turns on so many muscles. It's actually probably a little bit harder just in that you can feel all your muscles working, but it's a very good thing. Now this is going to be very subtle, but I'd like you to imagine making some space between your right hip bone and your right thigh bone so we don't find ourselves collapsed there. And then just grow tall out the crown of your head. So we bring our mountain into our lunge. We're keeping that bend in the back knee a little bit. Sometimes there's tightness in the front of our back leg, in this case our left leg. There might be some learned behavior, some habits of shrugging our shoulders into our ears. Let's not do that. Let's imagine actually spinning our palms to the sky a little bit. And notice how that architecture gives us some freedom. 3 moments, just as we are. And then return your hands to your blocks, or maybe to the seat of your chair. Step your left foot hip distance from your right. Take your hands onto your thighs and inhale, get some length. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, and then we stand into our mountain. Feel into your mountain so that we can translate it to the second side of our lunge. Ears over, shoulders over, hips over heels. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape, and then exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs. Inhale, extending your heart forward, hands either to the seat of your chair or onto your blocks. This time our right foot steps back. We might walk the left foot over to the left a little bit to give ourselves some extra sideways space. Hug your left hip underneath you. So it's like your left hip is trying to get back to the back edge of your mat. Your right hip's trying to get to the front of your mat. Firm through your belly, come upright. Arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. And then bend that back knee so it feels like it is helping you to stand tall. And kind of adding oddly to the wobbliness of things, but also to the power of it, the musculature of it. I think that's what wobbles in life are like too. They seem like something that we don't want, but they actually empower us if we allow them to. Now turn your palms as if you are turning them to the sky a little bit and just see if you can unlock any tendency to bring your shoulders into your ears. Step strongly into your left heel. See if you can make that subtle bit of space between your left hip bone and your left thigh bone now. And then we'll stay for a few breaths. Can you see the bright horizon? Return your hands to your blocks or to the base of your chair. Step your right foot hip distance from your left and bring your hands onto your thighs. Inhale, heart reaches, and then exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape, and we stand. One more time into our mountain here. Soft bend in our knees. Think of that double chin, lean back, so heading back, if you will. And then a sun salutation to take us to the floor. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands on your thighs. Inhale your heart forward and then bring your hands to the seat of your chair, maybe onto your blocks, and one knee at a time. We make our way to the floor and then we move our props so that they are not in our workspace. That means maybe you move your chair. I'm mostly moving my chair, honestly, so that I know that you can see me. Then slide out onto your belly. Once you're on your belly, Sphinx pose. Forearms on your mat, you're drawing your elbows towards you and you're drawing your chest through the gateway of your arms, and we breathe. Now think about the structure of when we were standing in our mountain and then we translated that into our lunge. Remember the chin parallel to the ground. That's true here in Sphinx pose also. But we will now pretend to be in our mountain pose while we adventure a little bit into a plank on our forearms. Ready? Lower down a little, just so you can shimmy your elbows back maybe an inch or so towards you. Curl your toes under. Now oomph into your arms. So we're not going to let a sag happen. We were in what's called shoulder blade retraction in our Sphinx, but I want you to start to push into your arms so you fill out that concave feeling in between your shoulder blades. Also could be a habit that we sometimes have when we're standing. So let's get strong into that upper back. With your toes curled under, start to lift your belly, your hips, and your thighs. Stay on your knees for a moment and really oomph into your arms. Really think back in time to when we were standing in our mountain. And then it's up to you. If this is enough, stay with it. If you want, take your knees off your mat. I would rather that you be a little bit high in your hips so we're not in that collapse, which would be the equivalent to not dumping in our back when we were standing together in our mountain. Just a couple moments here. You breathing? That's important. Bring your knees to your mat if you took them off. Then thighs and hips and belly, and we'll uncurl our toes and come into Sphinx pose. It's super tempting to use our neck too much. Let's not. Let's stay chin parallel to the ground. Let's traction our elbows towards us so that it feels like when we do our sun salutation and I say traction your hands on your thighs. It's a bit like that. Here we go, back to our plank, which is just our mountain pose facing the ground. So we're on our forearms. First, oomph into your arms and get really strong in all four sides of our torso. And then peel your ribs, your belly, your hips, your thighs, and possibly even your knees off your mat. Pause a moment here. If you have a mat, you're gazing just at that cusp, that front edge of your mat. That's our bright horizon when we're here in our forearm plank. And then return your knees and your thighs and your hips and your belly. Uncurl your toes. Let it be Sphinx. Catch yourself in your habits without judging yourself. So just let chin be parallel to the ground. Smile your collarbones. One last round. You could sit it out and stay here. Or curl your toes under, oomph first into your arms, feel it, fill out your shoulder blades, lift your belly, lift your hips, lift your thighs, maybe lift your knees. 3 moments here. Do your best to feel like we're standing in our original mountain pose, even though there's a lot more going on right now. Return your knees, your thighs, your hips, your belly. One last little moment in our Sphinx pose with our chins parallel to the ground. And we could just think head back, not chin up, but head back. Helpful for when we're standing out there in the world. And then lower down and we will roll over onto our back. And I love lying down on the ground because it gives us tactile feedback. We can feel what we just did with our shoulder blades, but we feel that against the ground. Now think back in time to when we stepped back and then straightened our legs, and I said it's a little wobbly, right? But it's going to get wobbly in the world. Now it's going to actually not be wobbly because we have the ground beneath us. We can feel if we round or if our shoulder blades are on our back. Now bend your right knee into your chest and then take your right leg up to the sky. So we're pretending to do what we did standing when we stepped back, but we're lying down on our back. I'm turning to look at you. I mean, if it's confusing, you can look at me, but ideally, let the back of your head be on the ground. So that too, remember I said heading back, we have this feeling of, that's where my head and my shoulders and my shoulder blades want to be in space. There is a natural curve to your low back. If your low back hurts, you can press it into your mat a little bit more. And if it's tight in your hamstrings, and for most of us it is, you can always bend your knee. Now usually we would hold on to the leg and try to stretch that way. I'm going to ask you just to stay like this. If it's still a little bit too much, bend your left knee and stamp your left foot into the ground. So many ways to do the same thing. What I really want you to pay attention to is the places where you might be compensating. So there's tightness, and then we throw that as compensation into some other part of our body, oftentimes head and neck. So with the ground beneath us, we can feel the support in our adventure to know ourselves a little bit better. 3 more moments here, I'll be quiet. Bend your right knee. Place both feet on your mat, hip distance. See if maybe you've lifted up your shoulder heads like I've noticed that I have, like I'm kind of going into that slump a little bit. Shimmy your shoulder blades on your back and then hug your left knee, or not hug, but bring your left knee into your chest. Extend that left leg up to the sky. So I started you out with the bent left or right knee. You could stay like this, or slide that right leg straight. And maybe your left knee needs a little bend. That's fine. The exciting part about yoga is that no matter what day it is, season it is, in our lives or in the world, there's always something to chew on. There's something new for us to discover. So feel your shoulder blades, remember heading back. So back of your head against the ground. And then this becomes a part of our fabric if we pay close attention. You'll kind of remember this as a blueprint when you're standing away from the ground, like we did earlier today. And then let me give you some space to meditate here. I'll be quiet for a full minute. Did you notice in our full minute that maybe your shoulder blades splayed apart and your shoulder heads started that rounding? Just kind of interesting, right? To note how those habits die hard. Bend your left knee, place your left foot and your right foot on your mat, and now cross right ankle on top of your left thigh. And maybe this is enough of a hip stretch, especially since we're kind of interested in our shoulder blades and our head. Like if you thread the needle, we'll come out of this probably. You're going to round a little bit. You might put your head on a block and maybe you're able to sort of stay with shoulder blades on your back and shoulder heads melting towards the ground. But this is going to be a little bit stickier. You can hold your left hamstring. You can interlace your hands around your left shin. But it's going to be a little bit more challenging, I think, for most of us to try to find heading back, so leaning your head back, and to keep the shoulder blades on the ground. Don't force anything, just stay curious. Some silent meditation time in our hip stretch here. If you've threaded the needle, just undo your interlace and we'll all place both of our feet hip distance. Now it's left ankle on top of right thigh, and it's perfectly lovely to stay like this, maybe especially on a day where we're nerding out together on our shoulder blades, the positioning of our head. So it doesn't always have to be a chase for a big stretch. Like I said earlier, so many things to chew on as we go. Maybe you interlace around your right hamstring, maybe you interlace around your right shin, and then it's going to get a little more challenging for most of us to find head back, shoulder blades on the back. A full minute of meditation here. If you're doing the interlace, gently release. All of us, both feet on our mat, and then walk your feet as wide as your mat. Just because this has been a big focus, let's take a particular moment to feel our shoulder blades shimmy underneath us before our final Shavasana meditation. Knock your knees together, pick up your hips, and then just elongate your tailbone a little bit and set your hips back down. But remember the natural curve of our low back. We actually want to keep that. And it might feel most juicy for you to take your final meditation like this. Maybe you straighten one leg and then the other out. Close, maybe cover your eyes if you're comfortable with that. And then just feel your head back. Your shoulders splashing into the earth. Let yourself let go. I always encourage you to stay here in your final Shavasana meditation for as long as you would like. If you're ready to find your way back, maybe stretch your arms and legs in opposite directions as if we were waking up refreshed and renewed all over again, and then bring your knees into your chest. Roll to either side. Use the strength of your arms so your head can be the very last thing to come up. Find a comfortable seat with your palms up or down. And one last time together today, chin parallel to the ground, smile your collarbones, and see if you can head back, lean your head back. And let's wear this out into the world, shall we? I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me today.